Hey there, adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Dungeon Master. This week, I want to talk to you guys about what goes on behind the DM screen. So, as you guys can see, this is the basic setup that I have for my Dungeon Master station anytime I am running Dungeons & Dragons at home. Basically, what I've all got here is behind the DM screen. We have the 4 basic books that I use when I'm running Dungeons & Dragons. So that includes the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, Volo's Guide to Monsters, and the Basic Monster Manual. As well, if you are looking back here, I always have a dice tray with a bunch of dice already pulled out, in case so I can just grab. But I do still have all my extras here in case I don't have enough d6 or something like that whenever I'm rolling some high damage spell or spell effect. And back here, I have all of my extra tokens and things for marking stuff on the map, whether that be fires or magical items or things that people have dropped. And then I also keep a handful of condition markers up here on one of these little clips. The clips that I have up on the DM screen up here actually have all of the characters' names on them so we can keep track of initiative. I just have everybody roll initiative at the beginning of the night, and then I set them up in order so that everybody can see it. My bad guys' initiative's in there as well too, and I always have several markers for bad guys in case I have them coming in waves. As well, I will have a variety of writing utensils back here, so that includes a pen, a pencil, a Sharpie, and then a combination of wet and dry erase markers, depending on what kind of maps I'm running that night. You will also see right here I have my DM binder for the campaign that I'm running. So within this binder, I have all of my extra note papers and random tables of loot drops and monster encounters, as well as my campaign notebook. And then over on this side, I have all of my different character bios for the campaign that I'm currently running in my home game. The biggest thing that I use in this notebook during sessions, other than my notebook, because that's where I keep all of my plans for the various different directions that they can go for that evening, I also have this little piece of paper for dry erase on. Now, with that, anytime I'm running an encounter, the way that I do that, especially if I have different kinds of monsters, is I will go through and typically I have a combination of things open. So I use an app on my phone, Game Master 5. But there is a compendium. So say I was running a basic low-level dungeon that has maybe 6 goblins and a goblin boss for the end of the fight. I typically will pull up one of those things in here. So say I wanted to do the goblin boss on my app. So I have that pulled up there. And then I will come over to the monster manual and pull up goblins. Goblins. Where are my goblins at? Page 165. Goblins. So basic goblin right here. The way I like to keep track is I will go onto my little dry erase board and I will put however many hit points I have for monsters on here. But I have 6 goblins, so I'll just write they have 7 hit points. So I put that on here 6 times. So each one of these numbers is a monster. And then I will write their armor class up next to what type of monster it is and then circle it so that I know that that is their armor class. And I'll do the same thing for the goblin boss. It just makes things in between running your bad guy's turn a little bit faster. So AC 17 on the goblin boss, and he has 21 hit points. So that is all set up for that. And then I have goblins and goblin boss ready to go whenever we get to their turn. In addition to the way that I run my monsters, I always have music back here. I have shown this to you guys before. This is my Kindle, and then I use DM DJ as the app on my Kindle, so I can get music running, because that's what we do. So, for those of you who may not have taken a look at the inside of the DM screen, I do have the older version, but I still use it pretty readily. The only thing I really don't ever use is the MPC Generator panel, which is this far left panel over here. I used it for a little while, but you kind of just run out of combinations for making names and things. It's limited, but that's to be expected. You can make your own, and you can switch them up. So, whatever, just consider this panel coverable if you have the old version. The thing that I honestly use the most is the conditions chart, which is right here in the middle. It has all of your basic conditions as well as exhaustion levels. So I use that almost every single session. And then over here, we'll give you a close look. There is a tiny little chart called Setting a DC. And that is very handy. I use that one pretty frequently. It's very nonchalant, very sneaky right there in that little spot. And then there's all of the stuff for cover, obscured, all that kind of thing over here on the far right. So, I'm not gonna lie, looking at this, guys, I rarely use the something happens or the quick finds tables either, but a lot of the other stuff on the right side there I use pretty frequently. So I don't know if this is coming across, guys, but there is a lot that kind of goes on behind the DM screen during sessions. I personally am always trying to think 2 to 3 steps ahead of my players, which doesn't always work because you guys always seem to go in the opposite direction of the one that I think you're going to. But in that case, I usually try to have some monsters and things set nearby that I think they may encounter, or some options for different areas that they may be going to for interactions, as well as, having some of my combat stuff prepped and ready to go for when that occurs. And then I am constantly taking little notes. I'm pretty sure anyone who ever looked at my notes would not understand them because I have kind of a shorthand that I use, and I imagine that a lot of DMs do. While my notes may not make sense to other people, they make sense to me, and I need them to remember what happens during my sessions, or where we left off, or what is going to happen, or important things that are happening. This whole half page is them talking about ways that they're going to solve a problem. Your DM is always listening. Be warned. So there's that going on, and there's music that I'm trying to keep updated for the areas of the campaign that they're in. So frankly, there is a lot that goes on behind the DM screen that the players may or may not be aware of. You're running what's going to happen, what might happen, the current encounter that's going on. You're listening to multiple people talking at the same time. You're taking notes. There is a lot. So this is the setup that I have found that works best for me. Obviously, you are seeing it in its nice, neat, tidy, before all hell has broken loose state. I honestly can tell you that by the end of every single session, this looks like a tornado came through here. And half the times I'm like, I lost my pen. Guys, where did I put my phone? Thank God, I have at least one person typically that's paying attention. They're like, your phone's underneath, it's underneath the DMG. Thank you. I would lose my brain if it were not attached to my skull. I appreciate you. This is what works for me. If you are a newer DM and you're still figuring things out, feel free to try this or alter it in any way that works for you. If you're an experienced DM and you have a setup that's different than mine, please feel free to share it down in the comments. I'm sure everybody would love to see that. And until next time, keep it rolling, adventurers.